A light shone through, despite her trials. His words were like a gentle rain on parched earth, and Sarah, so long deprived of any affirmation, found herself drinking them in. He made her feel seen, truly seen, in a way Mark had not in years. He remembered small details about her, things she'd mentioned in passing, making her feel important. He began to offer small kindnesses, a ride home when it rained, a cup of tea and a listening ear when she seemed particularly distraught. He would share stories of his own supposed struggles, creating a false sense of shared vulnerability. He framed his attentiveness as brotherly concern, as a shepherd tending to a lost sheep. But there was a subtle undercurrent, a possessiveness in his gaze, a lingering touch of his hand that she, in her naivety and desperation, initially dismissed or misinterpreted as genuine care. He was patient, meticulously weaving his web around her. He started spending his money on her, small gifts at first, a book of inspirational quotes, a delicate scarf. Then, more significant gestures. He'd insist on treating her to lunch, creating opportunities for them to be alone, away from the church environment. He would listen intently as she spoke of her pain with Mark, offering sympathy that felt so real, so profound. He painted himself as her champion, the one who truly understood her suffering, the one who could offer her the happiness she deserved. He was chipping away at her defenses, making her dependent on his attention, his validation. Sarah found herself enjoying the attention. It was a dangerous comfort, a temporary escape from the cold reality of her marriage. For a little while, she could forget the ache in her heart, the constant disappointment. Brother Thomas made her feel special, cherished, even beautiful again. These were feelings she had almost forgotten existed. She rationalized his actions, telling herself he was just a kind man, a true friend sent by God to help her through this difficult time. She was blind to the manipulation, blinded by her own deep, unmet needs and the clever disguise of his piety. The emotional affair began to deepen, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Brother Thomas's words became more intimate, his compliments more direct. He spoke of a connection, a special bond that he felt God had ordained. Sarah, caught in the tide of his relentless attention and her own emotional starvation, allowed herself to be swept along. There was a thrill in his admiration, a fleeting joy in feeling desired after being ignored for so long. She found herself thinking about him, anticipating their meetings, the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel. She started to confide in him more, sharing her deepest fears and sorrows about her marriage to Mark. He listened with what seemed like profound empathy, always validating her feelings, always positioning himself as the understanding counterpoint to Mark's neglect. He would subtly criticize Mark, not overtly, but enough to reinforce Sarah's negative perceptions and draw her closer to him. He made her feel like he was the only one who truly saw her worth, the only one who appreciated her gentle spirit. This created a dangerous reliance, a feeling that he was her sole emotional anchor in a stormy sea. However, amidst this newfound attention, a small seed of unease began to sprout within Sarah. Sometimes a look in Brother Thomas's eyes would seem too intense, his touch linger a moment too long. There were moments when his kindness felt possessive, his concern almost suffocating. Whispers of doubt began to surface in her mind, questioning the purity of his intentions. Was this truly God's will, or was she treading a dangerous path, straying further from the values she held dear? The initial joy started to be tinged with a subtle, persistent guilt that she tried to push away. The internal conflict grew stronger with each passing day. One part of her craved the attention, the feeling of being wanted, the escape from her painful reality with Mark. Another part, the voice of her conscience, her faith, warned her that this was wrong. A betrayal not just of her marriage vows, however broken they seemed, but of herself. She would lie awake at night, torn between the temporary solace Brother Thomas offered and the gnawing awareness that she was becoming entangled in something unhealthy, something that could lead to even greater sorrow. The fleeting joy was proving to be a fragile, precarious thing. The initial excitement and validation Sarah felt from Brother Thomas's attention slowly began to curdle into a profound sense of regret. The temporary high of feeling desired couldn't mask the growing emptiness inside her. She started to see his actions not as kindness, but as a careful, calculated manipulation. His compliments felt hollow, his sympathy a performance. The realization that she had allowed herself to be so easily swayed, so vulnerable to his advances, filled her with a deep shame. She had sought solace, but instead she had found a different kind of prison, one built on deceit and false affection. The image of herself, entangled in this emotional affair, became unbearable. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This was not who she wanted to be. The principles she had learned in church, the very faith she had turned to for comfort, now condemned her actions. The guilt was a constant companion, a heavy weight on her soul. Every secret meeting, every shared confidence with Brother Thomas now felt like a stain on her spirit. She had sought to escape one pain, only to find herself immersed in another, perhaps even deeper and more destructive. She thought of Mark. Despite his unfaithfulness, despite the pain he had caused her, he was still her husband. The vows they had made, however fractured, still held a sacred meaning for her. In seeking comfort outside her marriage, even if it hadn't become physical, she had crossed a line. She realized that she had allowed her own hurt and loneliness to cloud her judgment, to lead her down a path that offered no true peace, only temporary illusion. The brief moments of feeling special were now overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of having betrayed her own integrity. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. She had allowed one man's neglect to push her into the arms of another's manipulation. Brother Thomas's affection was not a lifeline, it was an anchor, pulling her down into murky waters. The kindness she had once cherished now felt like a carefully constructed trap. The taste of regret was bitter, acrid, and it filled her every waking moment. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, a mistake that had compromised her values and deepened her sorrow. The fleeting joy had completely vanished, leaving only the cold, hard truth of her error. The weight of her regret finally spurred Sarah into action. She could no longer live with the duplicity